saving is good and telling the bank to keep like 10,000 of your salary every single month. But as a young adult, I also want savings that will give me a lot more than 10%, for instance, right? You started talking about government bonds and you spoke about brokerage, so I'm assuming stocks maybe. And also there are companies like Amana Capital where you put your money, blah, 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 etc. Are there any other options that you could touch on where you can just like put your money and you know, hey, at the end of it all, I'm getting like a really good amount other than like 5 or 10% per year. And also in terms of like saving for investment, it's just like sometimes you don't know what to invest and what return will give you, because someone will come and say, oh, let's invest in this house, but honestly you don't know if it's gonna give you the same money, or let's invest in this thing and you don't know if it will give you the same amount.
So I'll answer both your questions, but I'll start with the investment one. So the only thing that they teach you when you go for a master's in finance is risk. Literally, that's all they preach. And the reason for that is because high return equals high risk. Not just high risk equals high return. High return equals high risk. So if somebody is giving you 25%, it doesn't mean that you can lose. It doesn't mean you lose some of your money if things go wrong. It means you will lose all of it. You will go to zero. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. Now, why that's important is because what I mentioned. Capital preservation is difficult. And that's where risk-free comes in, the idea of a risk-free return. And this is whatever the interest rate that a government gives its citizens is called a risk-free return. The reason for that is because the government has guaranteed revenues and taxes, and if all else goes wrong, they can print money. So you don't want the government to print money, but that's why it's called.
Find that printer.
So that's why it's called risk-free, because the government is also, it's almost impossible for them to default. So the risk-free rate in Kenya is about 9-10%. That's why we use 10% here. The reason why we use that as a base is because first, you should never take an investment that's lower than that. Because why would you give Chase Bank your money to give you 7% and Chase Bank can collapse? Yet you have government of Kenya giving you 10%, and that's literally what's happening in Kenya right now. Everyone's putting their money in a fixed deposit. There's government T-bills that give you 10%. Don't read. So 10% should be your base. Or whatever the T-bill rate is currently. Now the question around how do you get higher return? So the reason why investments can produce a higher return is because they have a higher risk. So entrepreneurship, for example, most companies will give you a return of about 25 to 30%. But the entrepreneur, the person who's running the business, is there all the time. They can't earn any other money, so they have to be compensated for their opportunity cost, right? The likelihood, they have to take credit risk. You know, they have to loan people money, and that person can refuse to pay them. They have to take the risk of telling somebody, come and work for me and I'll pay you a salary. That's why they're compensated for that. All those things are very risky. All those things can go wrong and the business can fail. So if you want to get a 25% return, you also have to be willing to accept that this thing can go to zero. When you're working in a place like Open Capital, why take the risk? Why, honestly? And the difference between, because you will never consistently get a 25% return. Warren Buffett is the most successful investor in the whole world. He gets 12. And he has way more money than you. He works in a market that's way more stable than Kenya. So for you to be able to get 10% here is actually pretty good. And what was I saying? It will never be the case that you will get a consistent high return. You'll have some years when it spikes, but it means you also have some years when it's zero. Your average will be 10. So I can give you all the places. You can go to a microfinance, you can give them your money, they'll give you 20%. You can go to your kiosk guy and tell him, I'll give you 10 G's and give back 20. The opportunities are there. The question is, do you want the hassle of doing all that work? I tend to think that when you have a career, your career is your highest opportunities for return. You should calculate what the return on your salary is. It's probably pretty high. And So even with, so we're entrepreneurs, and the way we think about it is when the business makes money and we declare dividends, I would never take that dividends and put it in someone else's business. Why? I don't know how that person works. If they die, what will happen? If all these, I can't control how well they do the business, so why would I do that? I take my money and I give it to the government. So it's a balance. So if you really want, I can tell you. What I'm saying is, maybe that's not the best way to go. Yeah. Do you want to take it?
Sure. Jumping to the car shortly, let me just build a thought just because it jumps to mind as she spoke. You guys watch Shark Tank, right? Everyone's like, yeah, Shark Tank, or Dragons, whatever it is you're into. We all see that stuff and we're like, I want to be an investor like that, right? So when person X brings me a deal, I'm like, how much is 20,000? Chica, right? Take the money, right? What's really important to understand is when I do that, I give all my 20,000, I give everything. I give 100%, right? When you watch Shark Tank, the average net worth of Shark Tank is 860 million. 860, stupid money, right? The average check size is 1.2 million. But do they usually take deals by themselves? They split them. What are they doing? They're saying, this is my portfolio, I will give this to this very risky thing. What are we doing? We're saying, this is my portfolio, I will give this. Very different game, right? So it's very important to understand. When people understand finance, what do they do that's different from what we do, right? So when you're chasing a higher return, then understand, I'm not chasing it with all my money, right? But much more importantly, this goes back to your goals. Start with your goals and what you want, and what you need your portfolio to grow at. So I have goal X at time Y, and in 10 years I need to have X amount because then I'm having 85 children at the same time, right? Whatever your plans are, right? I have 10 years to achieve this goal, and I have this much money that I put in every month or every year that grows at this rate. Am I already achieving this by doing this? If yes, don't take any more risk because you're already on track to achieve your goal. And remember what Val just said. When you lose money, you don't just do like 25% risk or equivalent of risk isn't you lose a portion, you lose all the money, right? So if you're already on track, then don't take more risk than you need to, right? If you're not on track, then don't take more risk with your whole portfolio, right? Understand how much more risk can you take with what portion of your portfolio. So maybe it's that, if you have 100 units of money, maybe you take 90 units, you put them in a fairly stable thing, the last 10 units put them in a more high risk thing, because overall your portfolio return is 13%, right, as an example, right? That even if this last 10% vanishes, you still have 90. That's still growing, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is...
Let me just add to that. Yes. So when you think about your job, so one of the, sorry to the people who pay guys, but one of the things that you should make sure happens is that every year your income increases by inflation. That way you're always earning more.
check, it's not always true.
It's not always true. The other thing is, when you think, so let's say you want to get a higher return, let's say it's 20%, right? When you think about what it would take for you to increase your salary by 20% versus take money that first, you've already, you pay 46% tax, because you pay 30% income and you pay 16% VAT of your income. So when you take your cash, you're actually putting 1.5% of whatever that amount is. So your 100K is actually really like 150. But if you get a 20% increase in your job, it's a true, first of all, it's a real 20%, and it is much, much easier for you to go and do qualification X or put extra hours in project X and ask whoever supervises you, this is where I'm trying to get with my salary at the end of the year. How do we do that? Because you have the time, this is what you spend every day doing. But if somebody goes and has a tomato farm, there's nothing you can't guarantee that 25% when you're here. So, yeah.
And then the car, I promise I will say as soon as I promise. It's one of the lessons, I promise. There's a thing that's totally under advertised, and it's one of, in my mind, the most important investments we have. Emma Keeper. Like I said, they don't pay us anything. It literally is a ridiculous return for a risk-free asset. Treasury bills give you 10% historically across 20 years. This thing gives you 10% tax-free. You pay tax on everything except this thing. And you can do it on your phone. Like, you don't need to leave, you don't need to go to call a broker. You sit down on your own app, you done, and you've invested.
Yeah.
And you don't need to do massive due diligence. You know the money is coming back. You know when it's coming back. Like, there's so much that's good about it. And then we don't like shout on the, from the roof of so it's an incredible investment. Email us after. We can send you a book, like, because we clearly care a lot about it. We built a bunch of resources about it. So absolutely happy to share that stuff with you guys. Go to Google and put a news alert.
New bonds.
Yeah.
They don't advertise that stuff.
Yeah. I literally had to read the newspaper 2 times because the advert is so bad.
Yeah.
It's a small Amakiba logo. I was like, where is it? I know I saw it. So put a news alert to know when these things open because I mean, you don't get a return like that in the market just